Court is in session. School district proceed.
The Hazelwood School District had the right to censor the articles in the school newspaper for several reasons. Namely, that it is part of the school curriculum, the principal was concerned about privacy issues and bias, and that the newspaper is not a public forum.
Since the newspaper was part of school curriculum, i.e. it was written and edited by the Journalism II class, the school had the right to control what goes into it. While the First Amendment protects some kinds of speech, schools are places where it isn't always appropriate for people to have unlimited free speech, since school is meant to be...
Can you please explain what happened?
In what?
Like, what event occurred? Like, what is the problem here?
No, are you here?
The problem in the situation is that the Hazelwood School District, or basically one of the teachers, rejected one of the articles because, first of all, it was biased and it contained what the teacher got was inappropriate content. So that's why they thought it shouldn't be published, so they cut it out. So we're
Schools are places where it isn't always appropriate for people to have unlimited free speech, since school is meant to be a place for children to learn, as opposed to real-life social media. Therefore, it is the school's responsibility to choose what goes into the newspaper to make sure that the students are protected.
Another reason that the principal had the right to censor the school newspaper was that his fears of privacy issues and bias were irrational.
Wait, hold on. So what was the problem with privacy?
Even though the newspaper used pseudonyms, the principal thought it was still possible for the readers of the newspaper to figure out exactly who the subject of the newspaper was.
and that wouldn't be good. And that would cause issues in school.
The other students could have probably heard gossip, who could have identified, and it could have spread very quickly around the school.
Come on! You didn't read the entire paragraph.
Specifically, the subject of the article claimed that her father was responsible. The principal also believed that the article about the divorce was not an example of responsible journalism because it appeared to be one-sided. Specifically, the subject of the article claimed that her father was responsible for the actions that caused a divorce, and the journalism class didn't alert the father about the article, and thus didn't give him a chance to provide his side of the story. A newspaper article needs to show all sides of an argument and not be biased, which is exactly what the principal was trying to prevent. Unfortunately, due to severe time constraints, the principal was unable to do anything except cut out all of the articles that had these bias.
Lastly, the school newspaper cannot be considered a public forum because it's not eligible for the protection of the First Amendment. And in order for media to be considered a public forum, it has to be published to the general public and can be seen by any specific group. Instead, the school newspaper was only available to the students of the school and their families. As such, the school has to follow a specific set of rules, making sure that the material is appropriate for this audience. And it's reasonable to assume that teen pregnancy and divorce are inappropriate for teenagers, which are included in at least some of the families of the students.
So what deems something as inappropriate?
Like inappropriate topics such as teens shouldn't be exposed to things as stories about kids with pregnancy or divorce and just
So you're saying that these newspapers The content in the newspaper should not be exposed to who? Like
Like students.
students in the school or like the family members of the students?
Both students and family.
While some may state that the principal couldn't censor the entire section because only 2 articles out of the section did not adhere to the school policies, the principal had no choice but to censor the entire section due to time constraints. Another rebuttal is that while the students may have used pseudonyms, it still might not be enough to keep the students' identities a secret. The students' privacy might have been sabotaged during the interview, and there is always a chance that the information might slip out when you aren't thinking about it. Thirdly, it is entirely possible that people can misinterpret the meaning of the First Amendment to mean that anyone can say anything at any time, which is simply not the case. Since the newspaper was not a public forum and that the newspaper was part of school curriculum, the censorship of the school newspaper does not offend the First Amendment.
To conclude our side, the principal had the right to censor the offending articles. This newspaper was part of the school curriculum, that the principal was concerned about privacies and bias, and the newspaper was not a public forum. Some other important points are that time constraints are what led the principal to censor the entire section, the fact that pseudonyms might not keep the students' identities private, and the censorship of the school newspaper did not offend the First Amendment because it was part of school curriculum and not a public forum.
So what was the time constraint?
They were limited on time, so he directly had to cut out the entire section.
So how limited on time was he?
Basically, he didn't have enough time to like re-edit it and give him
Reformat
reformat
the section
everything and remake everything.
Yeah, at the sun, like, during the time that they're supposed to be
So, we at Kuhlmeier believe that the students' rights were violated by the principal of from Hazelwood district because the article is technically a public forum because it is distributed, even though it's distributed to only the students there, it eventually gets onto like the whole, like all the public, which is kind of a public forum because a public forum is a paper which everyone reads. So if the whole public can read the paper, even if it's not intended to be a public forum, it still is a public forum.
How does the newspaper reach the public if you're not related to, like say I'm not actually related to anybody, or I'm not related to any student or staff attending Hazelwood or Hazelwood High School? How would I attain this paper if there was nobody to give it to me?
Well,
Can I just go to the school and like get it?
Because there's like a large amount of students who go to Hazelwood District, parents or friends and other friends who don't go to the school but still know other people who go there can get it because of their friends or parents' friends and stuff like that, and related relatives who go to the school.
So what are the limits to your freedom?
Well, our freedom was limited in this by the principal because there's no point for like the journalism students in our in the school to even write this if they can't write what they want to write and publish what they want to do, which is the First Amendment, because they can't express their feelings and their speech.
So, how do you interpret the First Amendment? Like, what do you interpret it as?
The First Amendment is an amendment which protects all freedom of speech and actions with full responsibility. So basically, you can say whatever you want based on anybody on anything, as long as you don't offend other people, which this article did not do because it is pseudonyms, or you did not attack the government or hurt political figures and stuff, people who are important.
So was your subject appropriate?
Our subject was appropriate because it's an issue that many teenagers at our school were going through at the time, and the newspaper helped talk about these issues and raise awareness for all these topics.
So how were the pseudonyms created/used?
Pseudonyms were used pretty discreetly, as they were not at all related to the names, and it was really hard to strictly discover who was the actual pseudonym person because of how different people, well, they didn't match the personalities that were described in the article.
So do you have anything to say?
That's pretty much it.
So let's discuss.